Welcome to the Love and Victory Show with Val, the place to laugh, sip on a little wine, and have open and honest conversation. Here you will find the tools to resolve real life issues. Unwind, pour up a glass, and get ready to exhale. Hello. Well, I am Valerie, your host with the Love and Victory Show, and I have Miss Viviana on the line with me. Hey guys, and my candid babies, please welcome Viviana to the show, to the Love and Victory Show with Val.
Hi, Val. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much. All righty, Viviana, I need to say Dr. Viviana. She's not just Viviana. There is a lot more that you guys are going to uncover. We're going to uncover, and you're going to learn about her, and she's going to teach us a few things, and we're going to be very candid on this candid conversation.
Love that. I'm ready for you.
You're ready for it? Okay. Kelsey and the team were just ranting and raving over this. Yes, of this conversation. They kept saying, we have to get her on. We have to get her on. And we have a younger generation that works with a younger group here as well as an older group. And it's kind of a mix. And they really want to go there with this conversation of let's go where it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that's the title of the show. And I'm going to say everybody is going to know, why is it uncomfortable? Or is it really uncomfortable to have this conversation after you tell them what you do? And then we'll make it clear of this conversation.
Okay. Would you like me to do that now?
I'm ready for you. Give it to her.
So I'm Dr. Viviana Coles. I'm a doctor of marriage and family therapy. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I'm a certified sex therapist. So yes, I've been doing that since 2006. I've been seeing clients since 2003. I am all about healthy physical and emotional intimacy and long-term lasting relationships. I wrote a book about it. It's called The 4 Intimacy Styles. It is on sale now at drviviana.com or 4intimacystyles.com. I fell in love with my book once it was almost over in writing it.
Oh, yeah, okay. Because the work was.
It took me a while to warm up to it. But I finally did, and now I'm so glad we're together.
Okay, Viviana, you and your book must travel here to Houston with me.
So I'm actually here in Houston. I'm here.
Did you see what I just did? You're here and you're not here?
I'm here.
We're going to have to fix that.
We are. We're going to have to do a part 2. My schedule is kind of crazy. I actually never really know when I'm going to be home because I travel so much for work. But I wanted to make sure that I knew that I would be able to join you no matter where I was in the world.
Well, I can tell you that I can totally relate to that. Now, ladies and gents that are listening, now you guys understand why the title is Let's Go Where It's Uncomfortable. Let's go where it's uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable for some to talk about sex. We're going to talk about sex. We're adults here. This conversation is for anyone over the age of 18. I figure that if you're over the age of 18, you should feel comfortable having that conversation, whether and actually this is a conversation for anyone to listen in, but I want to specifically say for those that are over the age of 18, because we're going to really get there. I mean, we walk around here like it's such a taboo to talk about that. I am 58 years young, and I do feel like even my generation struggle with having that conversation. I think men secretly have that struggle, and I don't know why. And so I'm hoping that you can unpeel this and let's go.
Okay.
I have a question. I'm going to throw a question out there. Hopefully it can kind of get the conversation going, and I really want us to have a conversation. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Okay. Why do you believe that the discussion of sex is so uncomfortable even when you're seeking help?
I think a lot of it has to do with not so much the future of sexuality or even the present of sexuality, but I think the past and the history. Anytime you bring in spirituality, religiosity, doctrine, it's a very difficult thing for people to go from one side of the spectrum of sex is dirty, naughty, inappropriate, unless in a box that is,
Hmm.
put together by a select group of people and then dictated
There
to the
you
rest of
go.
the world, all the way to the other side of the spectrum, which is, to me, sex is natural. It is, as long as it's consensual, sane, safe, all of that good stuff. It can be whatever you want it to be, especially when it's in the privacy of your own relationships and behind closed doors. So, that said, I think for a lot of people, it's because they're still dealing with messages that are anti healthy sexuality. They're sex negative messages versus what I ascribe to, which is sex positive. And it sounds like you're sex positive as well. So, yeah, we're really
Well,
working on it. And I think having conversations like this, two classy professional women can talk about sex in a way that is not going to be degrading, demeaning, or too tawdry
it,
or graphic. And
yes.
I think a lot of people think it's one or the other. No, it can be all of it.
Well, I think one of the things is if you take, and I think that's how we as women and men, I want to just speak on the women. I can't really talk for a man, I can talk for a woman. But I do think that that conversation has been taboo because it's been trained by others outside of the female saying that you shouldn't talk about this, you shouldn't say this. And then I think we as women sometimes get caught up in what's comfortable for others to hear versus what's comfortable for what we need to get answers to.
Exactly. The policing of our sexual communication when it comes to needs, desires, pains, fears, all of that, even just sexual health in general, I think has set the tone for letting the other decide whether or not
About
we
my
should be
body.
talking about it. Yeah.
Yes, about my body. I think back to, and I'm just going there, I think back to when I was in my early 20s. You know, of course, it was being defined then. I was married, still with my same husband. Can you believe my childhood
Congrats.
sweetheart? So I feel comfortable and really free to have this conversation because I'm still with him. So I think even then, trying to navigate feeling comfortable to ask the questions of, is this the way it's supposed to feel, or what is it supposed to be like, or is it supposed to change my life, or you understand what I'm saying? It's just it was never anyone there you can have that conversation or go there with.
And I agree with you. I've had so many conversations with clients and friends who have tried to ask me the question of like, how do I know if I'm having an orgasm? How do I know what it feels like? And these are women in their 30s, 40s, 50s who
Yes,
have never had someone that they can ask and give them as close to a realistic answer as possible. And you said earlier, you just said that, the idea like, is sex going to change my life? Is it going to
mm-hmm.
be this mind blowing experience? And the truth is, chances are not across your entire lifespan.
Right,
Um,
right.
not every time, that's for sure.
Well, I think the experience is what it is, the experience. And you go through different phases of your life, which means that you have different needs in for me,
Mhm.
there are different needs, there are different emotions, there are different things going on, which gives you different outcomes
So,
of the experience.
yes, Miss Val. So this is exactly what the book is about. It's about the
Oh,
four
wow.
different intimacy styles, and they're bonding, release, giving, and responsive. And it's the different needs and desires that motivate people to have sexuality in their lives, especially in a long-term committed relationship. So what I try to do, and if you go online to take the quiz at fourintimacystyles.com, it'll give you a percentage of what each of your intimacy styles are at,
Oh,
and the
wow.
goal is to have 25% of each. That would be ideal so you can round out your intimacy style. And the reason that it's important to do that is for exactly what you said. Over time, your needs and desires change in
They
all sorts of
change.
ways, but especially in sex. So, how great would it be to make sure that if you are rounding out your intimacy style, you can be sure that both you and your partner are getting your needs met forever.
And I think part of that has to do with, oh my God, it's, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to all of this on here because I'm really
We need
wanting to
that
take
part
it
two,
from,
don't we?
we're going to have a part two because I really think that so many women struggle with just being authentic with what they're feeling because they don't want to be judged. And I thank God I'm in a place in my life that I'm so okay with myself, that I don't spend a lot of time worrying about how it's, please understand what I'm getting ready to say that, and I hope it's not offensive, how it's going to make you feel.
Mhm.
Because if I'm coming from a good place, I believe that, and I'm being authentic and true and honest and caring, then it should come across okay. If it doesn't,
Mhm.
don't put me in prison to make me feel like I'm wrong for having a feeling about something or
So I'm going to challenge you because I love
challenge
what you're
me.
saying. And I'm such a huge fan of high sexual confidence, high confidence in general. I think it truly does make all things possible. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I will challenge you to say, instead of, I'll do me, and if I have a good heart, it should work for you, and say, let me make sure that I am rounding out my intimacy style so that my true self will show up to your true self. So the
Well,
idea that
I think I totally agree with you when it comes to sex. But before you can get to the sex conversation, I think what I was saying, and thank you, doctor, because you have the DR in front of your name. I don't. You know, I think that you have to be in a place to be okay with you to really, it's just me, just my little pea brain thinking that. You have to be at a place to really be okay with you to try to figure out what you feel, what you're thinking. Oh, no, you know what? I don't like when you say this to me. Or when you say this, it really makes me feel like this. Because if you're in an unhealthy place, even if you're laying down having sex, it's still unhealthy because the person is still there. That's
Yes.
my thought.
But a lot of people, and you're absolutely right, you do need to be good with yourself. You do need to understand your own emotional intelligence and the highs and the lows of it. But a lot of people don't do the work of
Yeah.
trying to figure out why they feel the way that they do, why they get triggered by their partner. They can say, I like this or I don't like this, but they don't go into the why because that's where the work comes in.
Yes, yes. And that's where I want us to take this conversation next. Let's talk about the why.
Mm.
What are some of your clients, what are some of the whys that your clients have brought to you that you have helped them to put in the work to get that why answered?
Well, for a lot of people, there is past trauma, whether it's physical or emotional. For others, it's the way that they were raised and the primary caregivers and the kind of relationships they saw within their home or didn't see within their homes. A lot of times, we don't take the time to kind of look and see what kind of messages did we get about healthy relationships and healthy sexuality
Mm.
growing up.
Mhm.
Some people get zero messages. Well, that still has an impact on you. And that still has
Right.
an influence in how you see the world of sexuality, especially if you've internalized it or tried to fill in all those blanks and puzzle pieces on your own. Or worse, there are people who fill them in with really not great information and not great examples. And then they perpetuate that and they struggle in long term relationships.
A question before I even go there. Do you think that a lot of times women go into the sexual relationships as feeling the need to please? I mean,
I actually think that everyone tends to feel
okay,
pressure to please their partner, especially because of the media. Um,
okay.
being orgasm centric and everything has to lead towards the peaks of pleasure and your skills and your ability to do things that are going to be pleasurable to your partner are at such put at such a high importance. There's a lot of performance anxiety, especially for men. There's always been pressure for women to experience pleasure, but for men, it's to experience erections. And
Mm.
everything is all about how whether or not the erection works. And everyone's guilty of perpetuating the idea that in order to have heterosexual relations with someone, that the male's erection is number one and that the female's orgasm is number one.
Wow. Wow. Whew. Hey guys, I told you this conversation was going to get deep. You didn't know. Let's go where it's uncomfortable. Well, the conversation may get a little more uncomfortable for those, but I do think at the end you will be okay. So, with that being said, I'm going to ask you this question. In your opinion, how has society truly impacted the sex conversation?
Hmm. I think that society has shaped communication when it comes to sexuality uh, by the pendulum swings. We go from not caring at all about whether or not women experience pleasure to demanding that women experience pleasure and that it looks a
Mm,
certain way. We
yes.
go from saying, hey, just have consensual sex with whoever you want to, yes, but if you
Yeah.
do, it's not going to work out for you long term. You're not going to keep your partner long term. There's just seems to be this swinging back and forth
Back and
from
forth.
one side to the other. And there are these trends back and forth that I think a lot of, especially younger people, are really trying to keep up with. And then if at any time the trends that are going on in an older generation don't align with what's going on in a younger generation, whether they're healthier
Oh,
or not,
oh my God, there's a clash.
there's a huge clash. And it's like
Yes,
nobody
yes,
can do anything right, quote unquote.
exactly. And the conversation shuts down. Then it becomes an attack.
Mhm.
And I want to speak from the older generation. We tend to, if it doesn't line up with the way we came up, then it's something wrong. Now, with that being said, I do believe that all generations should respect themselves in whatever you do. I'm not here to be the sex police or or the intimacy police, but I do think that we as adults, as matured adults, should be advocating for just one respecting themselves. What are your perspective?
And and I would go so far as to say that for me, as a sexual health education, intimacy expert, provider, all that
Hmm.
good stuff, for me, I think that it all lies in choice.
Yes,
When you feel like you have a choice in whatever situation you're in, you're
exactly.
likely to have a better outcome that is less traumatic, less dramatic, and more can come from it. Now, when you said respectful, for me, I went straight to consent. I think it's so important to
That's
be
exactly right. Yes.
consenting, and also, to be supportive of what someone's journey is and knowing that everyone's sexual journey is their own and it's not ever going to look alike, which is one of the reasons that a lot of clients come to see me, is that they have discrepancies in the way that they want to experience sexuality.
So I think that when I speak of respecting oneself, I think that respecting oneself is something that is uh, transmitted back and forth. Um, I can't tell you, I can't press on you what my idea of a healthy sexual relationship is. You understand? All I can do is share with you, for me, what works for me. And keep the lines of communication if you want to communicate with me what's going on with you. If you came to me with a question and you said, I think I'm not really enjoying intimacy with my mate. Well, I'm not the sex police or the doctor. What I would say is we can have a conversation about it, or I would say, hey, I have this doctor, or I had this doctor, or maybe you need to speak with someone that's more trained or educated that can help you along the way. That doesn't mean that I don't respect what she's saying. I'm just saying that we have to be open to having a healthy conversation as adults, one to another.
Absolutely.
and respecting that.
And knowing that if there's at any point obstacles to that, if it's a struggle for more than like 6 weeks to 6 months
Yeah.
of not really able to getting on the same page about it, that there's help. Go to a certified
Yes.
sex therapist. I don't believe that everybody has to have sex therapy. I would love for people to be able to have these
That
conversations
would
and
be great for
breakthroughs on their
yeah.
own, but why suffer through 6 months of uncertainty, of feeling disconnected, of feeling threatened or scared and concerned and worried when you can easily pick up the phone or email somebody in the middle of the night? My private practice here in Houston is called Houston Relationship Therapy.
Oh,
And we have a
wow.
practice in the Heights and a practice in Katy. So we're
Oh.
available. We see people from all over, but yes, we love Houston.
Oh, we really have to talk. Okay, so then the next question that we have here, have you ever had oh, wow. Why did you decide to do sex therapy? Did you
Oh,
ever have a problem? No, yeah, we're going there.
yeah. It's funny. Nobody's ever asked me, not so much why I got into it, but if I've ever had a problem.
Yes.
So the first question, I got into sex therapy. I was getting my master's in marriage and family therapy in Florida. Florida is actually the only state that requires that if someone says that they do sex therapy, they do a certification to become a sex therapist. And
Oh,
so over
wow.
there, sex therapy certification programs are very popular. And I remember thinking, okay, I want to do a specialty, but I don't know which one I want to do. I know I don't want to do child therapy or play therapy, not my thing. Art therapy, substance abuse, never been really into that. And so I finally said, well, there's a sex therapy certification. I'll do it just in case I ever have a couple that comes in and wants to talk about sexuality. I won't be
Right.
like a deer head, caught in headlights. But I didn't realize and didn't even plan on getting on having it be a big part of how I market myself. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
until I moved back home to Houston after I got my doctorate, or finished my doctoral work, that I put it on my card that I was a certified sex therapist. And I just started getting people coming in and coming in, coming in. I was the only certified sex therapist in Houston. There were three of us, and the other two were over 65 at the time or 60 at the time. And really good at what they do. I think they had a full client base, but so many people started coming to me as I
Oh,
think
wow.
they felt a little bit more comfortable talking to someone closer to their age. And I wasn't expecting it, but then all of a sudden I had to bring on an intern and another and another and another and another. And now, we're pretty huge.
Oh, yeah, it just blew up. It just blew up because that was a conversation that people were so probably just afraid to have.
Afraid, and they're starving for it. And they're still
Yes.
starving for it.
Yes. Yes.
But as far as like for me, and any issues, I can't say that at the time there were any issues. I wasn't married yet. It wasn't one of those things where I really felt like I had any issues. But certainly, I've had two kids. We're about to celebrate 15 years of marriage next week. Yeah, it's super exciting.
Yes.
And you can bet that through doctoral programs and opening up a business and travel, and then all these new heights in my career that I'm reaching, becoming an author, it's like, yes, there have been times where we are not on the same page. Now, what's great about it, and my husband will attest to this, is that we tend to not let anything slide. We can see things coming and we deal with it right then and there.
Right
It's
then.
not that
Yeah.
we don't actually have these issues come up, it's how we deal with them that I think makes a real difference.
And I guess I would have to come back to you and say I agree because of, and that's in anything that in our relationship. One of the things that my husband, and I think he was pretty good at just kind of like, oh, it's okay, moving on. I'm the type of person like, no, let's deal with it. And that really has helped us a lot because we don't spend time brushing something under the table.
Hmm.
And that's an issue no matter how long you've been in a relationship, you have to constantly, I think, work on it or be intentional about it. Would you agree?
I think you have to, and that's so that you don't end up at a crossroads. Like I remember I started I developed a premarital counseling program, and I mainly did it because I was sick of seeing people on the verge of divorce. I kept thinking, oh my gosh, I've only been in practice for like 3 years, and all I see are couples who are on the verge of divorce. And why didn't they talk about this early on? Why didn't they know how they felt about these major life issues? I need to create a program that allows not just for them to get help early on, but I, as a clinician, wanted to see more people who were excited and still at the beginning and like bright eyed and bushy tailed. And it's made a huge difference, not just in our clients, right? Our clients' lives for sure, but in the morale of the practice, because we do see couples from all stages of their
Oh,
relationships.
wow. And so you said that it's never impacted you personally, except for when, well, you everybody have their ups and downs, traveling and
Yeah.
all that. Uh, However, we work through it and we get to the healthy part. Do you find discussing sex is more difficult for men or women?
Oh gosh. Well, I have to say I'm biased because typically everyone who comes to see me is aware that I do sex therapy, so they're kind of expecting that at some point we'll be talking about it, and they tend to be more open. I can I can't say that it's one or the other. I really
Okay.
can't.
Okay, that's good to know. Well, I guess, how do you start off? And since we're highlighting you and having this conversation in your practice, and we really want to highlight that because one of the things about the Love and Victory show, we want to go from a broken place to a whole place. And if you're struggling with something and you're struggling in silence or
Mm.
you're unafraid to, you have to start the conversation. So I want to ask you, for someone scheduling or reaching out to your office, trying to schedule an appointment, what would it be like? What type of person, what individual, what stage would they be in?
I think it's anyone who wants to invest in either themselves as a potential future partner. Let's say they're single or they're dating and they want to go ahead and invest in invest the time, energy, and resources into making sure that they're on the right track. For a lot of people these days, especially singles, they feel like they don't have forever to figure things out.
Mm.
20-year-olds are struggling with wanting to make sure that they're not spending the next 30 years in the single dating game. And then I have people who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s who are feeling like there's just a real hole when it comes to the intimacy in their lives. So I can tell you we see people from all stages, but
Mhm.
the majority of the people that I personally see in my practice are going to be somewhere in their 30s or 40s. They
Mhm.
usually have one or two kids. They are doing well financially, doing well as a family, but between the two of them, between the parents, they just feel like all of the attention goes to work, the house, kids, their dogs, whatever it is, and they don't pay attention to each other. I
Mm.
often see people who are going through infidelity, who have just found out that they've been cheated on, who have
Ooh.
just been caught. I mean, there's a whole lot of infidelity that's happening. That's actually what my next book is going to be about. I don't know if it's going to be a book or a program or something, but I definitely I do so much work with infidelity, and I think a lot of people are starting to say, you know what, I'm going to do some research on the internet to see what kind of help there is out there. So, what I tend to tell people to do is if they're in the Houston area or if they want to be seen for therapy, they can check out houstonrelationshiptherapy.com. We have an amazing blog with all of our therapists contribute to it. You can get lots of free tips, information. If they sign up for our newsletter, they'll immediately get 10 tips sent to them to their email that they can go ahead and start using now. And then if they want to do a little bit of time checking out videos and podcast interviews and amazing
Yes.
ones like this one, then they can go to drviviana.com and check out everything having to do with all of that sort of media information. It is super simple from there to just send out a request for an appointment, and we can usually get someone in within the next 24 hours.
Oh, wow. So on day one, I walk in, my apartment is set. What is that experience like? So I'm
Well, it
sitting in the
depends.
chair, I'm sitting, yeah.
Yeah, so some people will choose to do virtual sessions. It's very comfortable to be at home, and especially for people who have kids at home for the holiday for the summer,
School.
it's just easy to stay home and not have to get away. Other people are like, "Get me out!
Uh,
I
get me
won't be
out.
able to focus unless I'm right there in the office with you." So they'll call, and when they've made that appointment, they'll come to one of our locations or meet us online, and truly, it's just about getting the conversation started wherever they are. If that means, we just got into an argument last night again, or this has been something that's been going on for as long as we've known each other and beyond, or we've been in therapy 5 times before and couldn't stand our therapist, and we saw you online and really thought you would resonate with us. So, um, really, truly, there's no cookie cutter, but most of them will say, we want more. We want
Okay.
closer. We want more connected.
Well, let me ask a question on this level. Do you think that do you have very many clients? I know you said from the age of 30 to 40-ish, 20, 30s, 40s.
Majority, I
But
mean, yeah.
majority, yes. Well, have you found that having menopause, when they get to that age, that they're
Mhm.
struggling with that? And the reason I'm asking that question because I have someone that wanted to hear that answer.
Yeah. So
Menopause.
menopause can really, really wreak havoc on a woman's sexual experience. Anything from the way that she experiences her body changes to it can change the brain chemistry with the hormones and everything. It can really change the way that you feel about yourself and your womanhood, whatever that sounds like and looks like to you. Um, and it's very difficult sometimes to share with their partners what they're going through, because men don't tend to have the same experiences when they're going through aging, and lucky them.
I know. But they go through something, don't they?
Well, I mean, they're always going through something, but they don't have the same kind of drop off
They don't have the same,
that we
right,
do.
right,
And
right.
and you know what? Here's the other thing is, so when it comes to menopause or being premenopause, there's so much more out there now to help women. But if you're not willing to talk about it, or if your
Right.
doctor doesn't ask you and you don't bring it up and advocate for yourself, you will experience menopause in a vastly different way than if you really take advantage of all of the information, treatments that are out there, things that are natural, organic, and others that are more pharmaceutical. But yes, it's very important. And so we try to do a lot of education for women who are perimenopausal to see,
Mm.
or even premenopausal, to see if they can avoid some of that, because we don't want it to be this stark drop off in their lives.
And do you think that because women and men tend to talk a different language, that they're uncomfortable with sharing with their partner where they think they're going, or the man is all he's thinking, well, is it someone else, or why are you not interested in me? When the woman is over here feeling like I feel like crap, I'm just not feeling good about myself.
Absolutely, absolutely. Actually, I was just seeing clients today where it's surprising to me still every time I hear it, how many men are so insecure that if their partner isn't having or wanting to have sex with them, they automatically assume they must be having it with someone else. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I say shocking and surprising because otherwise they tell me that they're in the most amazing relationship. Well, then why would you assume that?
Why would you? And you know,
Why
it's
would
so
you
funny
go
you say that.
there?
Why would you go there if you? So when I had, as girls, ladies, when we sit around and we have our drinks or we're going out and just having girl time, we can have those conversations because a lot of times we're having those conversations hoping for, are you experiencing this or have
Yeah.
you went with
Are we
this? I don't.
validation?
Yes, where I don't think men, and again, I can't say that because I'm not a man, but I don't think that they have those conversations with other men. Well, maybe my sex drive is not up here anymore, but you get what I'm saying? I just,
They don't tend to. The vast majority of men that I speak to don't tend to share whether things are really good or really bad. They don't.
mhm.
They tend to keep it kind of surface level, jokey.
Yeah,
Very rarely have I heard of men really confiding in close friends. They do. It's not to say that nobody does or that they shouldn't, but they just don't tend to. And I think that a lot of that is because um, they they don't really know where to go with it. So yes, I
mhm.
share this with you, and as a
Then
woman,
what?
yeah, and as a woman, if I share something is going on, we're going to go into, oh, you know what? I know of somebody because I spoke to her, and she knows of this person, this person. We're
Yes,
always trying to kind of
figure it out.
figure it out. Whereas with men, yes, they want solutions, but if they don't know the solution because nobody's talked to them about what solutions are out there, then it just dies.
It
The
just dies, it's
conversation just
gone.
dies.
Well, and I think that's the biggest problem. And I'm so excited to have this conversation. And I just hope this podcast just blows up because it's such a needed conversation. I'm just so excited because women have to get to a place that you feel comfortable sharing with your mate when it comes back. Well, you're not having sex with me because you don't. You must be messing with someone else. You have to start having that conversation when you notice your body is changing and maybe going to the doctor together. You know, hey, I'm noticing something different about myself. I think I need to make an appointment. Would you like to go with me? So that you both can have that.
I love that. And you know what? Yes, you should be having these conversations with your medical doctors. Absolutely. Even if they don't ask, they can give you information to get you started. Now, oftentimes if you're not going to the right ones, you won't get a lot of feedback. You'll say, "Oh, that's just the way that it is." No, it's
No, it's
not.
not.
It does not have to be that way. And look, you just have to find, you have to keep going until you find the right person to advocate with you. Now, inviting your partner to sessions, whether it's a medical appointment or with a certified sex therapist or a relationship therapist, is amazing. It makes a huge difference to be able to experience this, watching your partner ask questions, showing
Yes.
concern, caring. And
That's,
I can
I
tell you
would
as a
think,
therapist, selfishly, it is so much easier when we don't have to say, okay, now go back home and ask him this question, this question, this question. And what do you think he feels about that? And how does he respond? And what do you think that could mean? So I often tell the women who come in, if their partners don't want to come in, I say, look, have them come in for one session, just one
yes.
session so I can get all of my questions out. Inevitably, they come in and they're like, oh, I like this. This is cool. I'll come back.
Yeah. Well, and most of the time you're taking that journey together and
Yes.
you're taking that, and that right there becomes more intimate, which makes you just the fact that you're a woman or your mate is not doing it alone. And
Yes.
I would have to say that if you're struggling in that area, that's a love language. We're always talking about love languages. And for women, that's something before you get to the bedroom, I would
Well,
think.
and what's funny is talking about this whole like men and women and that sort of thing. I've recently been doing Houston Relationship Therapy is exclusively offering free telemed consults for women who are experiencing hypoactive sexual desire disorder, and that's a
Mm,
long word to say
that's a lot.
clinically low desire. And
Hmm.
it can't be due to relationships and or issues, and it can't be due to being going through menopause. And so this is for premenopausal women who just have tried everything and cannot get their desire level to be somewhere that's more satisfying. So I've been doing these consults, and we're really excited to be a part of this. But I often will tell the women, please explain to your husband that this is not the female Viagra. It's called Addyi, Addyi, and it's not the female Viagra. It is the little pink pill, but it is not the female Viagra because so many men have asked me, is there a pill? Can you just give her a pill? Is there anything she
Because
can?
they want the fix right now.
Because they want the fix right now, and because they're so used to being able to pop a pill in order to get an erection. Well, that's not how we work, and it's not
Okay.
going to be how we work. So I often have to educate them. Please let them know that this is not going to turn you into, a horny little devil. That's not what this is
Well,
about.
I'm glad you're sharing that because that to me speaks more healthy than popping a pill in the first place because it's mind over matter. We got to work through these things. There is some cobwebs that are some problems, some
Yeah.
underlying issues that are going on. If you pop the pill, once the pill dies off, the problem is still there.
Right. And fortunately for this sort of situation, it isn't hormonal. And they're taking it once a day and at night. And it's a very, very, um, from what people have been saying about taking it, it just makes them a little bit more open to the idea of. They're more responsive and receptive to sexuality, but it's not like all of a sudden you're going to be hanging from the chandeliers, especially if you've never been that way in the past. So it's a great option for women who have had sex therapy, who've worked through their issues, who've done the medical workups, and they just still, everything is going well, but they still just need a little bit of help in that area. And I love that we're getting more options. I love that when people take Addie and they do sex therapy, they tend to have the most amazing results. But it's not a miracle. None of this is a miracle.
It's you got to put the work in.
Yes.
Do you feel that at what age? Let me go back. At what age do you feel that it's either hard for people to talk about sex in their life? Is there an age? Let me rephrase that. At what age do you feel it's hard for people to talk about sex? So do you think it's the younger generation, older, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s? Just
Definitely not older. I think we're like, let's just put it all out there. There's no time for that. We don't need to skirt around things. Let's just put it out there. I
yes.
do think that people in their 20s who are experiencing sexual issues are more ashamed. I think that
Mm.
they feel like it's not expected, it's not common. They feel like they're not normal,
Oh
quote
wow.
unquote, and they're not alone, but they feel more alone. Whereas I think
Because
when
they're
people get
young when they feel like because society says at that age you're supposed to be in the
older,
prime of your life. Yeah. Okay.
exactly, especially men. Men are
Mm.
even more socialized to say, well, their sexual prowess should be going and going and going. And if they're more stressed out than ever, they're not going to be that way.
Wow. So do you think that stress plays a huge part with the lack of desire for sex?
Absolutely. I think it is the biggest killer of sexual desire. And that's why sex therapy is so important because so many people are going to their doctors and talking about, I can't, it doesn't work right. I don't feel right. It's painful. And they're trying to go through all these physiological treatments and it's psychological.
Yes, it's stress. Hey,
It's
what's
stress,
going on
it's
with you? Yeah.
trauma, it's all of it. I mean, we do not live in a society, especially in a huge city like Houston and a huge
Houston, yes.
country like the US. We do not live in a society that is going to hand over relaxation and
It's
harmony.
not gonna it's not gonna happen. It is not right. Oh, just go. Well, I have this question that one of my team members insisted on me asking, and I'm going to sit back and try and deliver the way they wanted this. And you have to answer it, okay? I know
Okay,
you got the right answer.
okay, let's see.
Woo. And why did they put that
And you
there?
don't want to call them out and tell them who it is?
Uh, uh, uh,
They're going to put
uh.
you on the spot like
They're
that?
gonna. I'm just gonna say they worked for me. Okay, that's
Okay,
all I'm gonna
okay.
say. What's the Oh, it's two parts. Mm. Can you describe the difference between healthy sex life and unhealthy sex life? We're gonna
Okay.
ask that question first, and then I'm gonna come back with one more.
From a really, 30,000-foot place looking down, I would say it's wanted and unwanted sex. And
Okay.
that will include feeling coerced, feeling obligated, feeling bullied, feeling um, objectified, feeling like it's a
Manipulated.
duty, manipulation, absolutely. I think that that is that's disrespect. So,
Right.
and it's distrustful. So I would say that that is probably everything probably underlies that is unhealthy.
Hmm.
And then I would say healthy is when you feel like you have a really good balance between being able to express your inner desires in an outward fashion with through physicality and then and sensuality.
Okay. This one here. How do you have, if you're not married and you're not in a committed relationship, how do you approach having a conversation about sex to, with someone?
Okay. Are you celibate or are you just not with anyone
Just not
right
in, just not with anyone.
now? Okay. Um, are you asking because you'd like to find out what they're into and whether or not your goals sexually align?
That was just the question.
Okay.
I
Okay,
think.
let's repeat it then, and I'll just see what I come
Okay.
up with.
How do you? Now you. I don't. How do you? I guess the question is, how do you, if you're not if you're not in a committed relationship, and but you're not in a space where you can actually have this conversation with someone that you feel can give you the true answers. How do you even approach anyone? Well, girlfriends. I think this was a younger generation, right? Asking this question, like, I want to talk about sex, but I don't know if my girlfriend uh, is the right person to have this conversation with. Not meaning girlfriend from like in a relationship, but just
Right.
a friend that's been a friend for a long time. And I don't
Okay.
feel comfortable going to my mother.
Okay. Okay, I got it. Fortunately, there is some amazing, really, scientifically backed, research-based information on the internet. There are some fabulous doctors. Even us here in the medical center at Houston, we have some amazing uh, programs that are led by doctors for adolescents and teens who have important questions about sexuality. And one of the ones that I really like is called Girlology, and there's Guyology. And so, if you want to go online, you can find some really good research based programs. If you want to talk with someone that you want to confide in and trust in, I would say that the number one question that you can start off with is, hey, I have questions about sexuality. Would you be the person that I can talk to? If not, could you give me the name of someone that I could talk to?
I actually like that answer better than any answer because it's so much out there on the internet. And I
Mhm.
think that if you're driving someone to go to the
Yeah.
internet without specifics, they tend to go
Well, and that's
into,
why it's so important to say that it needs to be led by somebody who's research based. Medical
okay,
professionals tend to be more trusted in that situation. But no, you wouldn't just send somebody to the internet and say, Google it. My goodness, they'll be traumatized.
right,
I
right.
I developed and created a program. It's to certify mental health professionals to become certified sex therapists. It's called the
Oh,
National Sex
excellent.
Therapy Institute. I have had to do so much research on the internet. My eyes are bleeding at some point because there is some crazy stuff out there, and
Yes.
nobody needs to look at that except for maybe someone like me.
They-
I did the research so you don't have to.
okay, thank you. What you said, you've already done it, so don't worry about wasting your time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to hit you with one more.
Okay.
Oh, Lord. At what age do you feel it's hard for people, again, um, to really, really, at what age do you feel is a good age for someone to start having sex?
To start having sex. Okay, so I would say I would say that no matter what age they are, Sorry, it just said stand by. We're trying to restore the connection. So I'm going to wait until that goes away to make sure we don't lose anything.
I'm there. You're strong over here.
Okay. All right. Well, then we'll keep going.
Yeah.
I would say that at any age, it doesn't matter if you're 15, 25, 85, you have to feel confident that working through the emotional side of the physical act of sexuality is something that you're ready to do, because no one can predict the emotional and the psychological effects that are going to happen from the physiological act. And so if you're not fully developed in that way, if you don't have a good sense of self, a good sense of knowing how to get answers to your questions, if you're not a good communicator when it comes to sexuality, if you can't talk about it, you shouldn't be doing it.
That's the key right there. And what better way to end this conversation?
I always love having these conversations. I know my whole team at Houston Relationship Therapy loves to help individuals and couples with these issues. We do so much more than this, but this is really at the heart of what we do. We want to really help people have healthy, very satisfying relationships, because I do think that love makes the world go round.
It does. Can you tell the people how they can find you?
Absolutely. Check out HoustonRelationshipTherapy.com, drviviana.com, spell it out, DOCTOR, VIVIANA. And on social media, everything is Dr. Viviana. I have a lot of fun with social media. Please follow me there. And hopefully I'll get to talk to you again, Val.
Thank you
Got it.
so much. I have absolutely enjoyed this
Thank
conversation.
you.
I hope that several people have been touched and moved and open to having this conversation as well. Thank you. Until next time.
And I hope more people will be touched after they hear this conversation.
I really believe that they will, because once you start the conversation, the healing starts, right?
Yes.
You
And
can't
the fun.
heal till you
The fun.
and
is
the
already
fun,
done.
the fun really begins. Thank
All
you so
right.
much. And Baba,
Thank
I
you.
need that book.
Yes, I'm going to send you one. I'll send you a signed one, I promise.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.